Steve, I know you've talked about this in the past, but so much focus on Steph getting fouled or getting grabbed, or how much do you tell your team about, like, we know this is coming, or I assume they know it's coming. How braced are you for, okay, we might have to let the officials know about this? Just how big a thing is it for you, knowing that Houston has kind of a history of doing this, like, specifically against Steph?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason teams have to be physical against Steph. I mean, he's the greatest shooter and mover of all time in this game, and so we would try to guard him the exact same way. Everybody's going to try to put their best athletes on him, be physical with him. The game this year in general, the NBA game, is more physical. They're letting more stuff go, and that's all part of the equation. It's not anything we worry about, or we just talk about it. Like, here's our strategy. Here's how they're going to guard us. Ime basically said it after the last game. We're going to foul, and they can't call all of them. And that's there's a long history of that in the NBA. When you go back to Chuck Daly, Pat Riley, there's truth to that. The refs can't call every foul. And by the way, we're a very physical team too. And we've been very good defensively in the playoffs by playing a physical game. So I welcome all of that. The series will unfold, and teams will complain about the officiating. We will, they will. It's all part of it.
You've been keen on the pass as far as not defending without fouling, but I mean, do you relay that message as far as physicality, make the refs adjust to us also, just like the Rockets are going to make the refs adjust to them?
Our message, we don't really message that. What we teach is defend without fouling, and the way you teach that is you work on the technique. No reach. You have to show your hands in the modern NBA, because if you do that, the offensive guy grabs your arm, and we haven't figured that out yet as a league to just call that an offensive foul. So until we do, we got to teach our guys, to show their hands, and everyone around the league has to do the same thing. But like I said, the league's adjusted this year. They're allowing more physicality. They're not calling as many of they used to call it illegal guarding position last year, where you're sliding, you don't reach, there's a little contact, the offensive player flails his arms. Last year, those were free throws. This year, they're letting those go. I think it's been great for the game. So you just have to teach the way the game is officiated, and it's a huge factor, defending without fouling, because we all know the difficulty of scoring on any NBA team off after free throws when they can set their defense up.
There have been a number of quote-unquote Steph stoppers in the past, and it seems like he always has an answer for them eventually, especially throughout a series. What makes him so great at adjusting to that and learning within a series like this?
Well, it's his ability both on and off the ball that separates him from any player who's ever played that position, any shooter. There's never been anybody who can shoot like Steph does, off the dribble, off pin downs, in transition, every which way. And so there's a fluidity and a motion and a beauty to Steph's game that comes from understanding the movement and the spacing on the court, and coordinating that spacing with his teammates. And if he does that well in concert with his teammates, he's going to get some openings. And with Steph, all it takes is one to get him going.
Hi, Steve. I was curious if you could reflect on sort of the arc of Brandon's season and what you guys need from him in this series. Obviously started slowly, had his injuries, and then really came on the last couple months. And I was just looking at his log the last few weeks. I mean, huge games against the Lakers and the Nuggets, good game against the Clippers on Sunday, and then obviously didn't play that well Tuesday. I'm curious how he's evolved this season and what you need from him in this series.
Yeah, I just think development is never linear for anybody. It's there's always dips and ebbs and flows, however you want to describe it. And I think what happened with Brandon early on is we were loaded roster-wise with a lot of guys who could play, DeAnthony Melton was going to be our starting two guard, and was fantastic in that role. And then obviously tore his ACL. But we had so many guys who could play that it was hard for Brandon and hard for us, frankly, to really just say, here's 30 minutes. And, he had to earn that. And early in the season, I think he was pressing. So he really was missing shots, getting frustrated, and not flourishing in the stuff that he does, which is to read the game and kind of run through closeouts and move the ball. And we were trying to play him directly on the ball quite a bit because we lost Chris Paul, so Brandon became our backup point guard. And I think that role is tougher than the one of being a combo guard and playing off the ball and making plays as a secondary ball handler instead of the primary one. So all of that was part of the adjustment. When we made the trade for Jimmy, everything changed. It clarified his spot in the starting lineup. He is the secondary ball handler when Jimmy's out there and Steph's not, which is a perfect role for him. He can handle it, get it to Jimmy. Jimmy creates the advantage. Now all of a sudden, pass to the weak side, Brandon's running right through the catch, getting to the rim, making plays. So a different role because of different personnel. And once he found his stride, the jump shot followed.
Steve, I know you had stressed a couple games ago just the need for getting those loose balls, getting those balls off, keeping them off the offensive glass. Did you see improvements Tuesday night? It seemed like you guys won some of those loose balls and some of those rebounds. But again, probably that will be a priority.
Be a huge factor,
okay.
Yeah, in this series. Houston's one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. They're very athletic. They're good at getting loose balls. We have to have that same mentality that we had against Memphis. We got away from that against the Clippers. For whatever reason, we were not attacking the loose balls and the long rebounds, and that's a must in this series.
In this series, you've got Steven Adams and Draymond have a history. Dylan Brooks has a history with you guys. Tari Eason has a history. When there are all these tensions bubbling in a series that's probably going to be very, competitive, do you have to have a strategy in terms of discipline, mentality?
I think it's more than anything, it's the reminder that, poise and composure is going to play a huge role in this. I think that's maybe the number one factor for me of getting the 4 days before game one. We have been in a sprint since the Miami road trip, which was at least 3 weeks ago. From that road trip on, we have not been able to get our feet on the ground, just the way the schedule has unfolded and the importance of each game. I feel like winning that Memphis game allowed us to get our feet on the ground 4 straight days at home. I think Draymond in particular will be rested and ready, and he needed that, frankly. The frustration that I saw with him the last few games as we're fighting like crazy, and he's playing the 5, battling Zubats, battling Şengün, battling, Jokic. I mean, you name it. The emotion and the energy Draymond has to put forth is incredibly draining. And when he's tired, when he's fatigued, that's when he's most vulnerable, frankly. And he knows that. He and I have talked about it. So the rest, the preparation that's going into this, I think will help all of us be composed and poised, because that's what it takes in the playoffs.
Steve, early this season when you were playing everybody, you were a big proponent of pace. You wanted the team to play at a certain speed. And since Jimmy's come aboard, it's almost like you guys have 2 different identities out there. What are the pros and cons of having a team that can play both speeds, or that kind of has to play at both speeds?
Well, I look at it as our new identity. It's not 2 separate identities. It's the combination of the ISO and the movement. And when you look at the numbers, our pace hasn't really dramatically changed since we got Jimmy. Our passes per game are about the same. Our assist totals are about the same. So What's different is how we're generating the advantage. You know, every team tries to generate an advantage offensively. With most teams, it's high pick and roll with your best player. We do a lot of that with Steph. With Jimmy, it's ISO. So we've become an ISO team to generate the advantage. But the beauty of it is Jimmy's such a good passer and reader that once he generates the advantage and moves it, now everything we've been doing for 10 years kicks in, and that's when the movement starts. And that's where Guy is amazing, and Gary, and they feel it and they read it, and they're constantly screening for Steph and trying to get him open. And so it's a new identity, but it's really very similar to what we have done for years, because it feeds into that once we play off of Jimmy's ISO.
So it seems like when your offense does get static, it almost looks like sometimes like Jimmy's waiting for somebody to move. And how frustrating is it when you know that's what Jimmy needs and guys are not moving?
Well, it's different. It's because it's a combination of the spacing first and then the movement, and we're really dependent on Jimmy to create the advantage, and we don't want to cut into his space either. So there's definitely a feel to all of this, and that's why you need the spacing, and that's why we've got to keep practicing and keep working on this stuff. But look, it's worked. I mean, we're a top 5 offense since we got him. Thank you.